Hi and welcome to the Unquendor Guitars workshop. My name is Daniel and this is my first ever Q&A video to celebrate my 1-year anniversary here on YouTube. So to start off, I really wanted to thank you for watching my videos and of course subscribing to my channel. At the time I'm recording this Q&A, I would have never thought to reach 730 subscribers within a year. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I also want to thank you for all the kind words and nice compliments you guys are giving me in the comment section of my videos. So yeah, thank you. In the previous 2 episodes I asked you to submit some questions and I received a couple of questions from you guys that I'm going to answer right now. Most of the questions I received were about my background, my personal background, the background of Unquendor Guitars, where I expected to get a ton of guitar building questions, but never mind, I'm happy to answer these questions as well. So I received a couple of questions from John Clothier, another YouTuber here. If you aren't familiar with John's YouTube channel, check out the link down below, check out his channel. He does a lot of wood turning, finishing, but also some guitar building videos. Awesome channel, and if you haven't already seen some of John's videos, check out his channel in the link down below. But please first finish this video. So John asked me a question: where did the name Unquendor come from? Besides I love building guitars, I've got another huge hobby, and that's fantasy. I love reading fantasy books, I love watching fantasy movie. I'm a real fantasy nerd, and the name Unquendor comes from the Quenya. It's an Elvish language created by Tolkien, the writer of Lord of the Rings, and I believe it must have been around 2002 when the first Lord of the Rings movie came out. My brother and I started playing the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings tabletop war game, and we joined an online forum and I needed a username, and yeah, we had a Tolkien dictionary that came with one of the Lord of the Rings books at the time, and I just started looking through it to find a cool name to use online, and I came across Unquendor. Unquendor in Quenya, or it's a Quenya word, and translated to English it means hollow land. But if you translate hollow land to Dutch, you get Holland. I'm Dutch, so it was very cool to find an Elvish name that's somewhat connected to where I'm from, to Holland. So yeah, I chose Unquendor. It sounds cool at the time, I think it still does. So yeah, I started using that name online, first at forums for that tabletop game, and then started using it when I started playing online RPGs and such. And yeah, the name stuck with me throughout the years. And yeah, when I started making guitars, it was just a logical choice for me to start using it for my guitars as well, because I didn't like to call it Daniel's Guitars or yeah, my last name Van Veen. It doesn't make any sense. So I went with Unquendor Guitars, and yeah, I based the entire Unquendor brand and theme with the script logo, fantasy style logo, and of course my tulip, also another Dutch icon, to be the main icons and main logos for the Unquendor Guitars brand. So that's where the name comes from. Quick answer: it came from Quenya, a language invented by Tolkien, and it's been my username online for years now. Second question I also got from John is: what got you started in building guitars? And for as long as I can remember, I always wanted to make my own guitar. I remember as a kid I got a book from the local library that explained how to make very simple instruments for kids, and one of the instruments was a single-stringed electrical guitar. So as a kid, I must have been 7-8 years old, I went around town through local wood suppliers, music stores, to get information and to try to source parts. But of course, as a young kid, Yeah, it didn't get far and it's stranded. The one thing I did as a kid, and that's my first ever instrument project, is my first ever acoustic guitar. I've never shown this online to anyone before, but this is the first guitar restoration project I did as a kid, and I must have been 12, 13 years old, I think. This is my very first guitar I bought second hand. I can't even remember from whom. But the frets were all worn down, the finish had faded, and at one point the neck heel broke. So it was a very terrible guitar. I think I paid only 10 bucks for it at the time. It was my very first guitar. And yeah, at one point, together with my mother, to be honest, I refretted the guitar. I bought some frets somewhere. I can't even remember where, because there weren't any online stores where you could order this stuff. Maybe it was my local a small little music shop that had some fret wire, a new nut, only the tuner buttons, not the tuners themselves, but only the little knobs for the tuners. And my mother actually did the graphic design. It's a Dutch painting style, a traditional Dutch painting style. My mother did on this guitar, and I lacquered it with just a tin of varnish and a brush. I didn't know anything about finishing. YouTube wasn't invented yet. There weren't any tutorials online, so you had to come up with everything yourself. So this is my first project I ever did in refurbishing, and my first steps into guitar building. And that's, yeah, when I was, I think, 11, 12 years old, so too long ago. So that little book I got as a kid from the local library and the old jazz guitar is what started it all for me as a young kid in guitar building. But as with many things, I grew older. When I turned 16, I started working full-time, got other friends, other hobbies, still played the guitar in several bands, but the thought of building my own guitar soon slipped from my mind, and also I didn't have a dedicated workspace available or anything like that. Yeah, the main things I did was work full-time, and in the evening played my guitars. So this brings me to the third question, sent in also by John and by Emmanuel Cartes. For how long have you been building guitars? To be honest, it must have been since 2017 that my interest in building guitars reignited or came to the surface again. I don't know how you say it properly, but it all had to do with this workshop we're in. I bought this house together with my wife, of course, and I had always been doing little woodworking projects for friends, family. I've been redecorating houses and installing kitchens. So I wanted a little workspace where I could work on projects and leave them and get back into the house when I wanted to. So I built this little shed in the back of my garden and made a little workshop. And then this guitar came along. This is my very first electrical guitar I bought when I was 16 years old, I think, 15, 16 years old. I bought this guitar. It looked quite different at the time. It's a Challenge SG type guitar. It's a Japanese made, very cheap guitar. But I was playing it one day and it detuned, and of course I tuned it again. Immediately it detuned again, and then I noticed the neck joint was coming off or had broken. So yeah, I was a bit sad about that, but luckily at the time in 2017 YouTube already existed, so I searched for videos that showed me how to repair a neck joint. And I had this workspace, so I thought, well, why not? Let's just give it a go. The guitar is broken anyway. Yeah, I can't damage it anymore, so let's try and fix it. So I stripped it bare, sanded it all, and redid the neck joint, and it turned out okay. So I refinished it, strung it up again, and now it's a playable guitar again. And this, yeah, sparked something in my memory of the childhood wish of making my own guitars, and I thought, well, why not? So I went online, watched a ton of YouTube videos on guitar building, bought some tools, bought some supplies, and I started making my own guitar with the intention to build one guitar just for me and just to challenge myself to see if I could actually make a playable instrument. And well, as you can see, I could. And in May 2017, when I started building that guitar, I soon realized this is what I want to do. I love making guitars, and I want to be able to share the experience of handmade custom guitar with as many people as possible. So I soon realized I have to do something with it. So yeah, I started making my first guitar in May 2017, and soon after I started Unquendor Guitars. So the next question, also from Emmanuel Gartes, is how do you get started in the world of guitar making? Quick answer, start. Just start building as soon as you can. Of course, watch some tutorials, watch some videos, whatever, online on YouTube. I recommend getting a book. It's always nice to have a book around to look things up while you're building a guitar in your workshop. But I recommend to start as soon as possible. As soon as you have a global idea of the materials you need, maybe on some tools, get them if you already haven't, and just start building. That's the only way to learn any skill, is by doing it. And keep thinking about what you're doing, what it is you're trying to achieve, and try to convince your hands, in this case, to get the job done as best as you can. Don't spend months and months of only watching YouTube tutorials, but I recommend start building as soon as possible. And you can't teach your hands to do anything by watching a video, although I'm making them. If you're trying to set up a business, that's a whole different story. Building guitars is the easy bit, in my opinion. Getting customers and get a sustainable income from building guitars is the hard part, in my opinion, but it might depend on where you're from. For me, as Unquendor Guitars, I don't call Unquendor Guitars a business yet. This is a hobby for me. I do it in after hours, at night, in the weekends, whenever I can find the time to work on my guitars. I work on my guitars. I had some customers, but getting customers is very, very hard. But it's the main thing you need when starting a business, especially a guitar business. You need, of course, guitars, and you need customers to provide income for you to keep building guitars, because building high quality guitars is a very expensive hobby. The materials are quite expensive. Sooner or later you want to have better tools, they're expensive. You need a website, at least these days, so the upkeep and such all cost money. So it's an expensive hobby, and in my opinion, if you have customers for your guitars to pay for your hobby, you're doing quite alright. When you're able to do this as a full-time business, you're doing it quite well. So yeah, how to get started? Start. How to be successful? Try hard. Try very hard and do all you can to get the word out there, get your products out there. And yeah, I think there's also a little bit of luck involved. So hopefully this answers your question. Another question I got from John is, I know you work with CAD for a day job, but what is your day job and what do you do and how is CAD involved? Well, I'm a senior technical engineer for a company specialized in lighting beacons. That's the easiest way to explain it. The company I work for makes lighting beacons for the on and offshore industries. For example, the white and red flashing lights on top of windmills you might have seen. Most likely they're from the company I work for, as well as we make explosion-proof lighting beacons for the offshore industry, so for the oil rigs and FPSO ships and such. We make both the actual lanterns itself as well as all the systems to control those lanterns. Besides being a senior engineer for that company, I'm also the AutoCAD and AutoCAD electrical application manager, which means I have to make sure the software runs for all of the users. I have to make sure it updates correctly and all libraries for the parts and symbols and such are in place for all the users to use. And of course I have to come up with work processes and drawing methods for the systems we provide to our customers. So that's why I'm so involved in CAD, and as an engineer myself I also use the SolidWorks 3D environment to do a lot of mechanical engineering for the company as well. So yeah, I'm both familiar with I think the two biggest brands at the moment for engineering software, so SolidWorks 3D, and on the 2D side of things, electrical schematics and such, and client documentation. I know a lot about AutoCAD and AutoCAD electrical. So that's what I do for a day job. And now you might be wondering, well, do you design all your guitars in CAD? Why don't you use CNCs? And that's because I spend 40 hours and more behind the computer for my day job, designing things in CAD and drawing things in CAD and such. So for Unquendor Guitars I don't use CAD that often, only for the essential things, template drawings and maybe some schematics, but yeah, I don't like to still be doing my day job essentially in the evenings and in the weekends as well. I like to spend the time working with my hands as much as possible. So yeah, that's why you won't see me use any elaborate drawings for my guitars or any CNC machines, because it reminds me of my day job too much. So John, hopefully this answers your questions, and on this topic I briefly want to mention I get asked a lot in the comment section down below and via email if I can make drawings for someone. Yes, I can, but please send me an email and I will send you a quotation on the cost for that drawing. As I just mentioned, making drawings is a day job. It's what pays for this YouTube channel and for my guitars at the moment. So I can't, and I'm very sorry, but I can't make drawings for free. Drawings I already made for Unquendor Guitars and for this YouTube channel, I do my best to make them available online at one point, but for the moment, if you want me to make a drawing, please send me a request for a quotation on the drawings you would like me to make. So let's get to the next question. So, final question comes from David. Why did you do a 4+2 with the tuners? And then he refers to my current guitar build. Is there a tonal reason? Is there aesthetics, or has it to do with stability? Well, David, a tonal reason, not by my design, and this is my current headstock and the headstock David is referring to. Tonal reason, I don't think there's that much of a noticeable effect of the string length behind the nut if you have a good string tension, and especially of course not when you have a locking nut. Then it doesn't matter what happens behind the nut. So not by my design, there's no specific tonal reason I went for a 4x2 configuration on this guitar. So no real tonal reason. It has all to do with both aesthetics and stability, and I feel those two things go somewhat hand in hand, because I'm a strong believer in tuning stability by having the straightest string pull coming from the nut as possible. That's something I really believe in, and that's why I design all my headstock to have straight string pull, so the snares won't get hung up on the nut, especially what you see with those bigger and wider headstocks, especially the 3 on each side headstocks, that the strings go off at an angle coming from the nut. That might lead into tuning stability issues, especially when the nut slots aren't filed correctly. So that's why I always try to have as straight a string pool as I can, so that limits the option of tuner placement. Yeah, the string spacing is set, so unless you're increasing the space between the tuners, yeah, the angle at which the tuners have to be set is fixed, so there's not much you can do for your tuner placement if you want to have straight string pool. Then the size of the tuners itself come into play. If you want to have, for example, a 3x3 headstock, as you can see hopefully on the back of this headstock, if I want to do a 3x3, the other tuner hole would be right here, right next to the other one, and that means I can't fit a tuner in there. There's not enough space in between the tuners to fit a tuner, unless you can find very small tuners or tuners with a very small housing on the back, but of course you always will need a gear or something on the back. So what you can do is offset the 2 rows of tuner holes by moving them up a bit. Personally, I don't like the look of it, but it's just personal preference that I don't like the look of the offset tuner holes that much, and that also would mean that there's even less space available to put in a logo unless you make a big top on your headstock or something, and yeah, that's still again personal preference, something I don't like. So yeah, the reason why I chose 4x2 is that I can have all the things I think are important for my guitar designs, is to have a relatively small headstock and still maintain straight string pool, have the holes of the tuners in line with each other as much as possible, and yeah, and I just think this headstock shape turned out amazing. Yeah, so it's all based on personal preference and the things I like to see on a guitar headstock. So straight string pool for tuning stability and a small headstock. So that's it for this quick little Q&A video to celebrate my 1-year anniversary here on YouTube. Like I said in the beginning, I really appreciate all the support you guys are giving me, and if you've any questions, yeah, let me know in the comment section down below, and I do my best to answer them as soon as I can, and as long as I'm able to keep track of all the comments. Yeah, and if you think, well, I have a question I like to be answered live in a Q&A video, yeah, also let me know in the comment section down below, and maybe I can do more frequent Q&A videos to answer your guys' questions. Yeah, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like, and if you're new to my channel and you're very interested in what's going on in the Unquendor Guitars workshop, subscribe and hit the notification bell to don't miss out on any of my future content. And I hope to see you all in the next video, in which I will start working on the guitar body for my single cut guitar model. So I hope to see you all there, but until then, have a nice week.